Okay, I'm just going to do a little quick video. This video is going to be for James. He put a comment in my comment suggestion or comment space on YouTube about this machine. He bought one of these A7s and he's having problems cutting HON 66 and HU 101. And we're going to try to just give him a couple pointers on what maybe's wrong with his machine, you know. So I'll tell you what I found in the last year and a half. Mine's bolted down. I'd take this apart and show you, but flip the machine over, and on the bottom of the machine you're going to see an access panel with 4 screws. Now on my machine, what happened, and it happened in the cold, but I suppose this could happen anywhere, the grease that they put on the tracks was too thick, and what it did is initially it caused the stepper motor to skip a step, a very minute step, but it would cause the keys to cut inaccurately. So what I want you to do is when you take that panel off, you'll see the tracks that this whole carriage, if you look down in here, you can see one of the tracks, but this whole carriage moves into a set of tracks, okay? All I want you to do is get the little red nozzle, you know, like on your cans of WD-40. See that little red nozzle, and just spray those tracks down. Don't get it on the circuit boards or anything. Just spray those tracks down, and what that'll do is it'll thin out the grease on there, because I believe they use too thick a grease. When I did that, it solved my problem on my machine. The other thing I'm going to go over with you is the calibration of the machine. When you got the machine, you should have a calibration block, and I'm sure you've probably done this. But pretty much that calibration block is going to go right into the top here. Let's see. And this is going to just set up. It's going to set up the parameters for the machine. And then you're going to you got to replace your cutter with the probe, which you're not supposed to let it drop like that. So. Just hold this here. 1 second. Just gotta get. Okay. Replace the cutter with a probe. Let's turn the machine on. Oops. Okay, it's gonna move. Okay. And we're gonna hit menu. And we're gonna go down to clamp origination. Enter. Okay, so there's auto and manual. I've never done manuals, but I suppose you could enter in measurements. I've always just done auto. So we'll hit auto, which enter. Replace tool with decoder. We've done that. Enter. Remove all keys from clamp. Okay, so at this point it doesn't tell you that you got to put the spacer block in, but you do. So that's a spacer block right there. Here, I'll open this up so you can see it. So now it's going to measure. And then it just says complete. Okay, so that's going to be how you're going to calibrate it. Now, if this doesn't work, what I recommend doing is buying a bunch of these HU 101s without chips. You get the shells, but you get these for probably about 75 cents a piece. Buy yourself like 10 or 15 of them just so you can get this machine squared away. Okay, so the one other thing, let's say neither one of those fixes actually works. On the back of the machine, let's see if I can see the back of our machine. Well, I don't know if you can see. Let's see. Okay, see the back of the machine. If you see here, you got screws here, Allen screws. There's this back. You're gonna take the machine, turn it around, take off this back cover. Right about here, once the cover's off, you'll find an SD card. Okay, so that's going to hold all the information for this machine. What I want you to do is go on your laptop computer. Okay, give me 1 second here because I haven't had this on today. help if I type it in right. Okay. Oh, isn't that great? I have this up already. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to close this out. Okay. So once it's closed out, Codemaster software. Okay. We're going to hit here. Clear SD memory and update. Okay. So once you take your SD card out, I do not want you to stick it in the computer. What I want you to do is buy yourself a 16 megabyte SD card, just like this. Like, I'm going to repeat again, do not stick this in the computer. I don't want you to erase the original settings for the machine. I just want you to set that aside. And then I want you to take your blank SD card, put it in the computer, and I'm going to want you to put this clear memory and update. So basically it's going to put all the settings onto this SD card. The reason I don't want you to clear your original one is just in case there's something different on the software. After you get those settings, you're going to put that in the computer. That's going to give it the new settings. So now you have two SD cards. You're going to have one with your original settings, one with this 5.5. And I think when you turn this on, I think the machine comes with 6.5. Okay, that's why I don't want you to erase it, because there might be some glitches in the 5.5, but this will tell you if it's something wrong with your settings or if it's that. The other thing too is when you go on to the software here, when you cut it with a computer, it uses different measurements in the machine. So I want you to cut the same, after you oil it and calibrate it, I want you to cut the same key with the software versus typing it into the machine. Now on my machine, the HO66 or HON 66 you were talking about, on my machine it cuts it both on either software perfectly. But this is the catch. On the HU101, the original software on my machine had a glitch in it, and it would not cut the HU101 correctly until after I updated it on this card. But after I discovered that, I didn't leave the original card in, and I just used the computer software to cut the HU101s, because I'm not completely convinced that there might be some glitches in this software where there isn't all the glitches in here. So I use them both in conjunction with each other. Normally, just about everything what I do, it takes a minute for this to fire up. I don't know why, but there we go. So what I do is I go up here to search. Instead of looking at all the manufacturers, I just type in, let's see, we're doing HU101. And oops, it helped if I typed it in right, HU01, and we'll hit search. Okay, it's going to pull it up right there. So you don't have to go through the different manufacturers. I just type in the key number whenever I do it. The only one other thing I noticed too, this is a different one, HU100, which is the new GM flip key. If you look here, there's a bunch of HU100s, okay? The one you want is HU100 T12 is for the GM. I noticed on this machine it has the HU100 and it doesn't cut it correctly where the software does, and because it's trying to cut one of these other HU100s and it's a different pattern because it's not in here for the new GM key where it is on the software, so that does it quite well. Okay, so that's kind of one reason I use both. There was one thing on here on the software where the machine would cut it better than the software, and I don't remember the blank. I'm trying to think what it was. I ran into it, and what it would do is it would cut. If I did it on the software, it would cut one side of the key, and then the machine would get an error. Okay, where if I typed it in on the machine, it would work every time. So I kind of use both. I use the software and the machine. And so far, there's not been one key I couldn't cut either using one or the other. But pretty much I always use the software. There was only one key that this machine had in it that would do better than the software. Otherwise, the software does better than the machine. As far as like the HU101, whenever I do it on the software. I don't ever do it on the machine, because I had it one time where I did it on the machine and it cut it almost right, but one of the cuts it didn't cut correctly, but the software cuts it perfect. So hopefully those 3 tips will help you getting your machine squared away. I'm trying to think what else I could tell you. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means. Everything I do is trial and error with this machine. All I could say is I've been very happy with my machine for the price point. I do love the software. It's original. See, the one thing you gotta realize, this machine's a hybrid machine from China. It's not an actual Miracle machine. Miracle, I don't believe, makes an A7. They make an A5 and an A9. So that's why the machine doesn't really say Miracle on it. It just says A7. If this was a real Miracle machine, trust me, it would say Miracle all over it. So they're using the actual Miracle software that I'm sure that they pirated, you know, to run the machine. So you got 2 different things going on here. But I do love the software. It's very quick. My computer fires up instantaneous with this software. But like I said, I'm able to cut every type of key. The only one I did have problems with was the HU101, and it was when I cut it on the machine, and when I cut it on the software, it works just fine. And that's how I normally cut it, is on the software. And the Honda, the one I've done both. I've done it on the machine and the software, and it seems to work fine. The only other key I had a problem with was actually a Chrysler H64 PT, but after once I calibrated the machine, then it worked fine. So it was off just a hair, and when you looked at the key, it looked fine, but it was I don't know, it must have been a little too deep or a little too shallow, but once I calibrated it, it worked just fine. Everything else, the Fords work great on both, either one. But yeah, hopefully that helps you, and let me know what you come up with. I'm sure that's probably going to work out. And believe it or not, oiling that track makes you wouldn't think that would make a big difference, but it did on my machine. My machine was cutting every key wrong until I put some oil on that track, and I haven't had to do it since. And that was during the middle of the winter, probably a few months ago. I probably unbolted and flip it over and put a little bit more oil on that track. And it's just because the grease they used was a real thick grease, like a wheel bearing grease or something, super sticky, and it caused the stepper motor, must have been, to skip a space. But anyways, hopefully that gives you help. Signing off.